Picture a building, a tall one. Glass and steel rising 42 floors above Madison Avenue in New York City in the year 1962. The lobby is marble, the elevators are polished brass. The men who work here carry briefcases and wear suits that cost more than your monthly rent, and they walk through the revolving door every morning like they own the place. Because they do. Now picture you. You're 22 years old. You have a certificate from the Catherine Gibbs Secretarial School on East 50th Street, which means you can type 75 words per minute on a good day, and 100 if someone's watching and you're trying to impress them. You can take dictation in Greg's shorthand at 120 words per minute, which is faster than most people talk. You know how to answer a telephone in 3 rings or fewer, how to transfer a call without disconnecting it, how to draft a memo in the correct format, how to organize a filing system so efficiently that any document can be retrieved in under 30 seconds. You are, in the very precise and technical sense of the word, brilliant at your job, and your starting salary is $58 a week. The man sitting at the desk next to you, Ted, 24, fresh out of Rutgers, who has never taken a shorthand class in his life, who types with 2 fingers and has so far spent his first week asking you how to use the Xerox machine. Ted makes $93 a week. Ted is a junior account executive. You are a secretary. This is 1962, and this is where we're going tonight. Not the Manhattan of Mad Men postcards and stylish nostalgia. Not the sleek world of cigarette ads and cocktail parties and women in beautiful dresses who exist as decoration in someone else's story. We're going into the actual offices, the ones that smelled like carbon paper and anxiety, and someone's tuna fish sandwich eaten at a desk at 12:58, because you couldn't leave until your boss came back from a 2-hour liquid lunch, and you could not under any circumstances leave before he did. We're feeling the specific discomfort of a girdle that is 2 sizes too small, which you're wearing because your company's employee handbook, your actual, printed, distributed to all staff employee handbook, states that female employees must present a professional appearance at all times, and the woman who runs the secretarial pool once sent a girl home for not wearing one. We're sitting at a typewriter whose keys are so stiff that by Thursday afternoon your right hand will ache in a way that doesn't go away on the weekend. We're making coffee. We'll never be offered first. We're answering phones and taking messages for men who will read them, crumple them up, and later ask us where that message went. I make these sleep stories, and honestly, I have no idea who most of you are. Maybe you're listening because you're actually interested in 1960s office culture. Maybe you're listening because you're someone who used to live this, and somehow hearing it described out loud is the thing that finally lets you close your eyes. Maybe you're one of the younger ones who was shocked to discover that this wasn't ancient history, that there are women alive right now who lived every single minute of what I'm about to describe. Either way, get comfortable, because you are Barbara Ann Kowalski. You are 22 years old, you grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens, and you're about to spend a year on the 31st floor of the Whitmore building on Madison Avenue and 48th Street. Here we go. Your alarm goes off at 6:15. Not because the office opens at 9, it does, but because getting yourself ready for the office, ready in the specific and demanding way that is required of you, takes 2 hours minimum, and one of those hours is not optional. The alarm is a baby Ben, cream-coloured. It sits on the nightstand your mother gave you when you moved out of the family apartment in September, along with a set of dish towels and the specific maternal instruction to make sure you eat a proper breakfast because nobody does good work on an empty stomach. Your mother is right about this, as she is about most things. You eat breakfast anyway. There is no time. You lie in the dark for exactly 30 seconds and go through the list. The list is real. You actually maintain a list. You discovered, approximately 3 days into this job, that if you don't organise your morning with military precision, something will go wrong. You will find a run in your nylons at 8:45 and have no replacement pair. Your hair will not set correctly, and you will spend the entire day feeling slightly unravelled. You will forget to pack an extra pair of white gloves because the subway is dirty, and you need to look like you've just stepped out of a department store from the moment you walk through the lobby doors. So, the list. You sit up. The apartment is cold. November in New York is not subtle about itself. The radiator in the corner hisses and clanks with great enthusiasm, but produces heat in a way that can only be described as aspirational. There's a gap under the window that lets in a draft, and you've stuffed it with an old dish towel which helps slightly. Your feet hit the floor. The linoleum is cold enough to make you inhale sharply. The bathroom is down the hall and shared with the woman in 3B, Mrs. Ferrara, who is 60-something and retired, and therefore has absolutely no reason to use the bathroom between 6 and 7 in the morning, but does anyway. You've worked out a schedule. You knock twice. She knocks back if she's in there, and otherwise the bathroom is yours. The bathroom is yours. You run the water hot enough to steam the mirror and stand there for a moment, just a moment before the real work begins. Here's the thing about getting ready for an office job in 1962 that nobody tells you until you're already in it. It's not really getting ready. It's construction. You are constructing a version of yourself that meets a very specific set of requirements, and those requirements have almost nothing to do with your actual ability to do your job. They have to do with how you look while doing it. Start with the hair. Yours is dark brown, thick and naturally wavy in a way that is not fashionable in 1962. What is fashionable in 1962 is smooth, set, controlled. Your hair should look like it emerged from your head, already knowing exactly what it was supposed to do, and then did it without being asked. This requires rollers. You slept in them last night, which means you slept on a head full of hard plastic cylinders, and you have the neck ache to prove it. But you take them out now, section by section, and the curls they've produced get teased and smoothed and hairsprayed into a shape that is simultaneously soft-looking and absolutely immovable. Aqua net. The smell of it in the small bathroom is so strong it makes your eyes water slightly. The aerosol cloud hangs. In the air, Aqua net smells like shellac and intention. It smells like a whole generation of women trying very hard. You give the hair one final spray and set the can down. The face comes next. This is not optional either. You have read, and the manual was not subtle about this, the section in your employee handbook titled Professional Appearance approximately 6 times since you started at Whitmore & Associates 3 weeks ago. It says that female employees are expected to present a polished and professional appearance at all times. It says that this includes appropriate cosmetics. It doesn't say what appropriate means specifically, but you've watched the other women in the secretarial pool long enough to understand. Foundation, powder, red or pink lipstick, mascara. No eyeliner. Eyeliner is considered theatrical. Eyeshadow only in the most neutral tones. Nothing that makes you look like you're trying to be noticed. You are apparently supposed to look nice while also looking like you aren't really trying to look nice, which is its own particular form of invisible labour. Your foundation is Revlon Springwater Beige. It goes on with a sponge, smoothed along your jaw, blended at your hairline. Powder over the top set with a puff. The lipstick is Persian melon, not too red, not too pink. Mascara on your upper lashes only. 2 coats, let the first dry before the second. You check your face in the mirror. The woman looking back at you is Barbara Ann Kowalski from Jackson Heights, Queens, but she doesn't quite look like it. She looks like someone who could be from anywhere. Someone neutral, professional, appropriate. Now the clothes. The clothes are where this whole operation gets genuinely uncomfortable, and I don't mean that metaphorically. You pull out the girdle first. It's Playtex, white. It runs from your waist to mid-thigh, and it's made of a rubber and fabric composite that was designed by someone who was clearly optimizing for control rather than anything like human comfort. You step into it and pull it up, and there is a specific physical effort involved in getting it into place that leaves you slightly winded. And when I say slightly winded, I need you to understand what that means. This isn't like pulling on a tight pair of jeans. This garment has structural integrity. It reshapes you. The whole point of it is to reshape you. By the time it's properly positioned, your waist is 2 inches smaller than it actually is, and your entire midsection is under a constant low-level pressure that you will carry with you for the next 10 hours. You get used to it. Supposedly. The older women in the secretarial pool say you get used to it. You are not yet used to it. Over the girdle go the nylons, nude, with a seam up the back. This is 1962. Seamless nylons exist, but the seam is still preferred in a business context because the seam communicates care. The seam says, "This woman put thought into her appearance this morning. This woman is professional." You attach the stockings to the garter clips at the bottom of the girdle, which is its own small engineering challenge, and you have to check in the mirror that the seams are straight. Crooked seams are noticed. One of the women in the pool, Susan, who sits 2 desks down from you, got a quiet word from Mrs. Marsh, who runs the secretarial pool, about her seams last month. Susan had not put them on crooked on purpose. Her seams just wandered slightly throughout the day because she was busy doing her actual job. She started checking her seams in the bathroom mirror at 10, at noon, and at 3. The skirt is charcoal grey wool. It hits just below the knee. Narrow enough to be professional. Not so narrow that you can't walk at a normal pace, which is a calculation you have to make with every piece of clothing you buy. The blouse is white, always white or a very light colour. Bright colours are considered unprofessional on women in offices. The reasoning for this is never explained. It is simply stated, and you dress accordingly. The jacket is the same charcoal grey, fitted at the waist. Together, the pieces cost $31 at Macy's on sale, which is more than half a week's salary, and you need at least 3 complete outfits that meet the standard, which means that your first 2 months of paychecks went mostly into your closet. The shoes are black patent leather pumps with a 2-inch heel, not a 3-inch heel. 3 inches is too high, too obviously decorative, too much. Not flats. Flats are too casual, too lacking in effort, too unwilling to participate. 2 inches. You step into them and the linoleum is suddenly further away. Last, the white gloves. Kid leather. You'll take them off in the elevator, but you need them on for the lobby, and you need them on the subway because otherwise you'll arrive at the office with grey hands. You look at yourself in the mirror one more time. You look, you think, like someone's idea of a secretary. You grab your handbag, navy blue, structured, not too large, and your coat, and you lock the apartment door behind you, and you go out into the November morning. The E-train from Jackson Heights to Lexington Avenue takes 22 minutes, which is 22 minutes of standing because there are no seats at 7:40 in the morning, holding the overhead bar with one gloved hand and your handbag with the other, trying to keep the seam straight and the hair uncontaminated by the various things that exist in a New York City subway car at rush hour. The smell of the subway in 1962 is not subtle. Exhaust fumes drifting down from the street through the grates, burnt brake dust from the wheels on the tracks, the collective warmth of 100 bodies pressed too close together in November coats, breathing recycled air, reading their newspapers or staring at the middle distance with the specific expression New Yorkers develop for public transit, which is a studied blankness that means, I am technically present, but I have retreated somewhere inside my own head, and I would appreciate it if you would respect that. And underneath everything, the particular subway smell that is part metal, part water, part something organic and old. The smell of a system built in 1904 that has been carrying people ever since. You breathe through your nose and not your mouth and think about your typing speed. Your typing speed has dropped to 72 words per minute since you started at Whitmore and Associates, which bothers you. At Catherine Gibbs, you were tested regularly. 75 was your average, 82 on your best day, when the rhythm was there and your fingers were loose and the keys were clicking under them with a momentum that felt almost musical. But the typewriters at Whitmore and Associates are IBM Selectrics, which are different from the machines you trained on. The Selectric has a ball element instead of individual keys, and it's electric, and the whole experience of typing on it is different in ways you're still adjusting to. The touch is lighter, the response is faster. You overshoot your keys sometimes. You hit 2 at once when you're going fast. You'll get there. You'll be at 80 by February. This is the kind of thing you think about on the subway. The train rattles and lurches. A man in a brown suit is reading the Herald Tribune close enough to your face that you can read the headlines yourself if you tilt your head slightly. Nixon visiting somewhere, a budget debate, a theatre review. You don't tilt your head. The train pulls into Lexington. You come up out of the tunnel into the cold and the noise and the specific quality of New York November light, which is grey and determined and makes everything look slightly more serious than it actually is. You walk 4 blocks. Your heels click on the pavement. The coffee cart on the corner of 48th smells like life itself. Hot and bitter and necessary. And you think about stopping, and you don't, because you cannot afford to be anything other than exactly on time. And you have learned in 3 weeks that the coffee cart line can add 7 minutes you don't have. The Whitmore building comes into view. It is 42 floors of glass and polished aluminum, designed in 1958 in the international style, which means it is all straight lines and clean angles, and the careful elimination of anything that might be considered ornamental or human. The lobby is marble and terrazzo, black and cream. There's a security desk staffed by 2 men in uniform who know by now that you belong here, though they checked your ID card every single day for the first 2 weeks, with an attention to detail they did not apply to the men in suits who walked past them without stopping. The elevators are polished brass, 6 of them arranged in 2 banks of 3. They are operated, this is 1962, by human beings, elevator operators, men mostly in uniforms who push the lever and announce your floor and say good morning with a consistency that suggests either genuine warmth or extremely dedicated professionalism. Your elevator operator is a man named Walter. He's maybe 60. He has a small moustache and a Bronx accent, and he says 31 when he sees you now without waiting for you to ask. You've been here 3 weeks. Walter has already memorized your floor. You like Walter. Walter is one of about 6 people in this entire building who treats you like a complete human being without any particular agenda attached. Morning, you say? Morning, miss. Cold out there. Getting colder. November's like that. The elevator doors close. The mechanism hums. You rise. You take off your gloves in the elevator, fold them neatly, tuck them into your handbag. This is the moment between the outside world and the floor. The moment in the small brass box before you step out into the day that's waiting for you. The elevator stops. 31, Walter says. The doors open. The first thing is the sound. You hear it before the doors are fully open. The massed clatter of typewriters. Dozens of them. The Selectrix ball elements whirring and striking in overlapping rhythms. A sound like rain on a tin roof, if the rain had been organised into a typing pool and was working on correspondence. This is the 31st floor of Whitmore and Associates, one of Madison Avenue's mid-sized advertising agencies. The floor houses the creative department, 2 account teams, and the secretarial pool, which is 14 women at 14 desks arranged in 4 rows of 4+2 facing the windows, which is where the senior secretaries sit because they've earned it. The second thing is the smoke. In 1962, people smoke inside. Everywhere inside. The offices, the conference rooms, the hallways. The ashtrays on every desk are real furniture, not decoration. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the air on the 31st floor has taken on a quality that is less like air and more like a medium. A soft grey atmosphere that sits above the desks and below the ceiling and carries within it the accumulated evidence of everyone's cigarettes since 9 o'clock. Lucky Strikes, Chesterfields, Parliament, which the art directors favour because Parliament has a recessed filter that they consider sophisticated. The older men in accounts smoke pipes, which adds a warmer, woodier note to the general atmosphere that is not unpleasant if you don't breathe too deeply. The third thing is the light. Fluorescent. Long tubes mounted in ceiling fixtures, casting a light that is both very bright and strangely flat. It has no direction. There are no shadows. Everything is equally illuminated in a way that is practical and slightly relentless. Your desk is in the 3rd row. It's a metal desk, painted that particular shade of institutional beige that American offices adopted after the war and have apparently committed to using indefinitely. On the desk, an IBM, Selectric typewriter, a telephone, a wire inbox tray, a wire outbox tray, a desk calendar showing November 14th, 1962, a pen holder with 3 pens and a pencil, and a small white card in a clear acrylic stand that reads, Miss B. Kowalski. Not Barbara, not Barbara Ann. Miss B., this is your desk. This is your 30 feet of the 31st floor. You hang your coat on the rack by the elevator, set your handbag in the bottom drawer of your desk, and sit down. Your chair has a back that ends at mid-spine. Full back support, you've read somewhere, promotes too much relaxation. Secretaries are not supposed to be relaxed. You pull the cover off your typewriter. The first paper of the morning is already in your inbox. It's a handwritten memo from Mr. Addison, one of the senior account executives, who apparently arrived early or stayed late or both. The handwriting is the specific illegible scrawl of a man who has always had someone else to make his words legible, and you spend a moment passing it before you understand. He needs a letter to a client in Cincinnati by 11, 4 paragraphs. He has outlined what the letter should say in note form, and it is your job to turn those notes into language that sounds professional, correct, and This is the part the notes don't specify, but you've already learned. Sounds like him rather than like you. You are a translator. You take whatever is inside their heads and you put it into the world in a form it can function in. You feed a sheet of paper into the selectric, align it with the margin guide, set the tabs. The keys wait under your fingers. You begin. You've been typing for 8 minutes when a coffee cup appears at the edge of your desk. You look up. The woman standing there is 38 years old, 5'4", and has the kind of posture that comes from 17 years of being told your posture represents the company. Her hair is auburn and absolutely set. Her suit is navy blue with small white buttons, and her lipstick is a shade of red that she wears every single day without variation, which you will eventually discover is called Persian red, and which she has bought in bulk because they discontinued it in 1960, and she bought 16 tubes. Her name is Vera Hutchins. She is the senior secretary on the 31st floor, which means she has been here longer than anyone else in this room, which means she knows everything. She knows which filing system Mr. Addison actually uses versus the official one. She knows that the supply room on 32 has better paper than the one on 31. She knows that the coffee at the east end of the floor is always slightly burnt because of something wrong with that percolator that nobody has fixed in 3 years. She also knows every rule, written and unwritten, that governs the existence of a female employee in this building. And she has been watching you for 3 weeks, the way you might watch a new plant in a difficult environment, waiting to see what it'll do. She sets the coffee cup on your desk. You take it black, she says, not a question. How did you... I pay attention. She sits down on the edge of the desk next to yours, which belongs to Carol, who isn't in yet. You've been getting it from the machine in the break room every morning. The machine on 31 makes terrible coffee. You have to go to 32. She says this like it is important information, because it is. Thank you, you say. You wrap your hands around the cup. It's warm and it smells correct. It tastes like actual coffee, dark and slightly bitter, not like the beige water the machine on 31 produces. Mr. Addison's letter? She asks, nodding at your typewriter. I have it. He needs 2 carbon copies. He'll tell you one, but he needs 2. The client file and the department folder. He always forgets to ask for both, and then it becomes a problem at 2 in the afternoon. She pauses. Also, he says, per our conversation, when he means, as we discussed. He hates per our conversation. Don't write it. You look at her. How do you know? Because I've been doing this since you were in grammar school. She stands up, smooths her skirt. How are you settling in? And this is where you would normally say fine. You would say fine because that's what you're supposed to say. You would say fine because you're 3 weeks in and still on probation, and there is absolutely no percentage in saying anything other than fine. But something about Vera Hutchins makes you not say fine. The rules, you say instead. She tilts her head slightly. There are a lot of them, you say, and nobody told me what they were. The handbook has the official ones, but... You pause. There seem to be a lot more that aren't in the handbook. Vera looks at you for a moment. Her expression doesn't change exactly, but something in it shifts. Recognition, maybe, or something older than recognition. There are, she says, a pause. Get. Through today, she says, and tonight, when everyone's gone, come find me. She straightens the small white card on the desk next to yours. Miss C. Harrington. I'll explain the rules. She walks back toward her desk at the window. You look at Mr. Addison's letter. You feed in a second carbon sheet. You roll it up through the typewriter until the margins align. You begin typing. Dear Mr. Wallace, as we discussed during our recent telephone conversation, at exactly 8:58, 2 minutes before the official opening of business, Mr. Gerald Addison walks off the elevator. He is 44 years old, senior account executive, and he has the specific physical confidence of a man who has never once in his life wondered whether he was allowed to be in a room. He nods at the general area of the secretarial pool as he passes through it. This nod is not directed at any specific person. It is a nod of collective acknowledgement, the kind of gesture you might make at a piece of furniture that had arranged itself pleasingly. "Morning, girls," he says. 14 women say, "Good morning, Mr. Addison," in near unison. This is a rule, not a written one, but if you didn't say it, you would feel the absence of it. Not from Mr. Addison, who would not notice, but from Mrs. Marsh, who notices everything. Mrs. Marsh runs the secretarial pool. She sits at a desk just inside the entrance where she can see all 14 desks from her chair without turning her head. She has been at Whitmore and Associates for 11 years. She has the quiet authority of someone who was given a very small amount of power and has maximised it with great thoroughness. She's 51. She's never missed a day of work except when her mother died, and she came back after 3 days, which everyone agreed was admirable. At precisely 9 o'clock she stands up from her desk and walks to the centre of the room. This is also a rule, not written, just real. "Good morning," she says. "We have a full day. Mr. Patterson's team has a presentation to chase at 2, so the reproduction room is unavailable from 1 until 3. Plan accordingly." She looks around the room. "Miss Harrington, Mr. Russo called yesterday at 5. There's a message on your desk." "Miss Kowalski, the Addison letter needs to go to Mr. Addison's desk before 10. Anyone with questions can see me." She sits back down. That's it. That's the morning address. 14 women turn back to 14 typewriters. You've been at Whitmore and Associates for 21 days, and you've learned the following things that are not in the employee handbook. You stand when a male executive enters the room. Not all of them, just the senior ones, the ones above a certain level. The level is not defined explicitly. You learn it by watching who the other women stand for. You offer coffee. You do not wait to be asked. Part of your job, in the morning, is to ensure that the men in the adjacent offices have coffee before they ask for it. This means knowing how each of them takes it. You have a small card in your desk drawer. Mr. Addison, black, 1 sugar. Mr. Patterson, light, no sugar. Mr. Russo, cream, 2 sugars, and he likes it in the white mug, not the beige one. You do not drink coffee at your desk. There's a break room on the floor, and there are 2 designated 10-minute break periods in which you can use it. Coffee at your desk is considered slovenly, or possibly a distraction, or possibly just not something women do in offices. The reasoning is never stated. You do not eat at your desk, ever. Lunch is 30 minutes between noon and 1, and you eat it in the break room or in the lobby cafeteria or at the counter at the diner on 47th. You do not eat a sandwich at your desk while continuing to work, even though you have watched every male executive on this floor do exactly that, including Mr. Addison, who regularly eats pastrami on rye while dictating letters to you. You answer the telephone in our 3 rings or fewer. You say Whitmore and Associates, Mr. Addison's office, before you say anything else, and you always take a message. You write the message on the pink message slips in the holder on your desk. You note the time, the caller, the number, and a brief summary of the message. You do not editorialize. You do not write. Mr. Harris called and seemed quite annoyed. You write, Mr. Harris, 10:24 a.m. Please return call. R.E. Halberton account. The emotional content is not your department. You call male executives by their title and last name. Always. Mr. Addison, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Russo. They call you Barbara, or Miss Kowalski when they're being formal, which is when you've done something wrong. When you hear Miss Kowalski in full, you wait for the correction. You do not sit until they sit in meetings where you're taking notes. You do not volunteer opinions in meetings. You're there to transcribe. Your function is to make a record of what the men in the room have decided. If there's a mistake in reasoning, if someone says something factually incorrect, if there's an obvious error in the figures being discussed, you write it down and you say nothing and you carry it back to your desk and you transcribe it and you let the world be whatever shape the men in the room have decided it will be. You keep your personal life at your desk. Your desk is not a place for personal items. You may have one small photograph if it is in a tasteful frame and doesn't take up more than a corner of space. You may have no flowers. Plants are discouraged. The desk is a work surface. You do not cry in the office. If you need to cry, and there will be reasons, there will be many reasons. You go to the women's bathroom on 31, and you go to the stall at the far end, and you do what you need to do, and you fix your face, and you go back to your desk. This last rule is the one nobody tells you, but every woman on the floor knows, in her body, in the specific controlled stillness behind her eyes on difficult days. The thing nobody tells you about secretarial work is how physical it is. Not in any dramatic way, not in the way that mining or construction is physical, but in the way that using your body in the same precise motions for 8 hours leaves a residue. A soreness in specific places that tells you exactly what you spent your day doing. Your back, from sitting in the chair that ends at mid-spine. Your right hand, from the typing. Specifically, the tendons along the outside of your wrist and the muscle that runs from your thumb to your first finger. The Selectric is lighter than the old machines, but light doesn't mean effortless. 75 words per minute for 8 hours is a physical accomplishment. Your feet, from the 2-inch heels. By 4 o'clock, the balls of your feet have developed a low, constant ache that you've learned to walk through, if not ignore, and your neck. From the specific posture of dictation, you're turned slightly toward whoever is speaking, your steno pad open on your left knee, your pencil moving in the rapid strokes of Greg's shorthand, and your head is inclined just slightly, the way you unconsciously tilt towards someone you're listening to very carefully. You're always listening very carefully. Taking dictation from Mr. Addison is its own specific experience. He dictates the way he thinks, which is in loops. He starts a sentence, changes direction, adds a parenthetical, loses the thread, finds it again, and arrives somewhere that is not where he started. Your job is to have heard all of that and reconstructed, from the shorthand of your steno pad, something linear. Dear Wallace, actually let's start with the figures. No, start with the relationship. Say something about, what's that phrase I used last time? The one about, the synergy thing. Something about our shared vision. Then pivot to the numbers and end with something about the future. The forward-looking language. Clients like the forward-looking language. Your pencil is moving through all of this. The shorthand is automatic. The hand goes faster than thought. But you're also doing something else simultaneously. You're organizing. You're already translating the loop into the linear. By the time he finishes, you know roughly what the letter will say, even if he doesn't. This is the invisible work. Nobody in this office knows you're doing it. Mr. Addison certainly doesn't know you're doing it. He thinks he's dictating a letter, and you're writing it down. He doesn't know that what's actually happening is that you are taking his half-formed thinking and giving it shape. Finest logic in the loops, building a document from the raw material of his rambling thoughts. When you type the letter and set it on his desk at 10:47, 13 minutes before his deadline, he will read it and nod and say, "Good," and that will be the extent of the recognition. Good. The letter is good. The letter is exactly right. The letter says what he meant to say, in language that sounds like him, with the Cincinnati client's name spelled correctly. You checked the client file. With the figures he mentioned organized into a clean paragraph, with a closing that is warm but professional. The letter is good because you made it good. He takes a pen and signs it without reading all of it. You watch him sign it. You pick it up, along with the 2 carbon copies he didn't ask for, and you take the original to the outbox and you file the carbons in the correct folders, client file and department folder, and you go back to your desk and there is already something new in your inbox. Carol Harrington sits at the desk to your left. She's 26. She's been at Whitmore and Associates for 3 years, which makes her one of the more experienced secretaries in the pool. She has a way of typing that sounds different from everyone else. A little faster, a little more percussive, like she's in a slight disagreement with the keyboard. Her shorthand speed is the highest on the floor. She told you this not to brag, but because it came up in conversation, and she wanted you to know what was possible. 140 words per minute, she said, on your second day, when you were comparing notes over sandwiches in the break room. If you practice consistently, it took me 2 years. Carol is married. She's been married for a year to a man named Robert who sells insurance in Queens. She doesn't wear her wedding ring to the office. You noticed this on your second day and you didn't ask, and eventually she told you. "It's company policy," she said, and there was a flatness in her voice when she said it that meant she wasn't going to expand on this, and you didn't ask her to. But the policy is no married women. Not officially. Not in writing. Nothing so bald as that. But when Carol was married last October, she came back to work and did not tell anyone, because she knew, the way you know certain things, not from being told but from watching, from the accumulated evidence of who gets hired and who doesn't, who gets let go quietly and why. She knew that if she told them, she would be let go. And she likes this job. She's good at this job. So she doesn't wear the ring to the office. And she's referred to in the company directory as Miss C. Harrington. And she goes home every evening to Robert and their apartment in Astoria. And the 2 halves of her life do not officially intersect. You think about this sometimes, at your desk, watching Carol type. The way she's organized herself into a shape that fits the space she's been given. The way she takes care of herself by making herself invisible in certain ways. The way she does it without visible resentment. Or if there is resentment, it's been filed away somewhere no one can see it. The same way she files everything else. Organized. Labeled. Accessible when needed. Out of sight the rest of the time. You're filing away your own things, you realize, already after 3 weeks. The feeling when Mr. Addison walked through without looking at you this morning. Filed. The feeling when Ted from Rutgers asked you to explain for the 4th time how to use the Xerox machine. Filed. The feeling when Mr. Patterson held a meeting in his office this morning about the Chase presentation and invited the 3 junior account executives but did not invite you, even though you have been working on the Chase documents for 2 weeks and you know the numbers better than any of them. Filed, 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 Carol types, the Selectric ball whirs and strikes. Outside the windows on the east side of the floor, the November sky is the colour of old newsprint, and somewhere below, 31 floors down, Madison Avenue is doing what Madison Avenue always does, moving forward with great confidence in its own importance. At 11, Mr. Patterson's secretary, a woman named Jean who has been here 7 years and has the calm of someone who has long since ceased to be surprised by anything, comes to find you. "Mr. Patterson needs you for an hour," she says. "I've got the dental appointment." Jean has the dental appointment every 3rd Tuesday. You don't know if this is a real dental appointment or a strategic deployment of a real appointment, but either way, Jean is not available on 3rd Tuesdays, and you are seconded to Mr. Patterson's office. This is also a rule, not a written one. Secretaries can be loaned. Your services are, in a sense, fungible. The pool can redeploy you as needed, and you go where Mrs. Marsh directs you, or where the executives directly ask. You don't have a vote in this. Mr. Patterson's office is at the corner of the floor. Actual corner office, 2 windows, a view that extends down Madison toward the 40s. He has a wooden desk instead of the metal ones everyone else has, and there are framed ads on the wall, campaigns the agency has run, some of them famous. A cigarette ad with a photograph of a model in profile, head tilted back, smoke trailing upward. A laundry detergent ad showing a woman in an apron with an expression of pure joy about her clean whites. Mr. Patterson himself is 61, silver-haired, and has the particular quality of men who have been important for long enough that they don't really register who they're talking to anymore. They talk in the direction of people. The people process the words and respond, and the system functions. "Sit down," he says, not looking up. You sit. You open your steno pad. You wait. He dictates for 40 minutes, a client letter, 2 internal memos, and something he calls talking points for a meeting on Thursday, which is essentially a list of things he wants to say organised in the order he wants to say them. You'll type this up as a single column on a half sheet of paper, which will live in his breast pocket and which he will glance at during the meeting in what he believes is a subtle way that no one notices. Everyone notices. While he dictates, you are doing the thing again, the organising, the translating, the invisible construction work of turning rambling into document. And you're also noticing other things. The way his office smells differently from the floor. Old Spice and leather and pipe tobacco, a warmer smell than the flat smoke environment outside. The photograph on his credenza, a family on a beach somewhere warm, his wife and 2 teenagers squinting in the sun. The way his talking points for the Thursday meeting include a strategy that you happen to know from the Chase documents is slightly wrong. The figures he's planning to cite are from the 3rd quarter, not the 4th, and the 4th quarter numbers are better. The story is better with the right numbers. You write it all down. At the end, when he says, "That'll do it, thank you," you say, "Mr. Patterson, the figures for the Chase talking points. The 3rd quarter. Numbers? Or the 4th quarter? The 4th quarter came in stronger." He looks up. For a moment he's actually looking at you, not in your direction, actually registering that you're a specific person with specific knowledge. "4th quarter," he says. "Yes, sir. I can get those for you." Do that. You go back to your desk. You pull the Chase folder from the filing cabinet. You find the 4th quarter numbers. You type up the talking points with the correct figures. When you bring them back, he takes them without comment. But he takes them, and later, when the Thursday meeting is a success, and Mr. Patterson gets a very good review from the Chase people, you will not be mentioned anywhere by anyone. You will have filed that away too by then. 30 minutes. Noon until 12:30, or 12:30 until 1 if you're on the second shift, which rotates. You and Carol are on noon shift today, which means you have the luxury of the first wave at the diner on 47th. The diner is called the Lexington Grill, though it's not on Lexington, and it is not by any definition a grill. It has a counter and 8 booths and a menu on a chalkboard above the counter, and it serves the same things every day. Soup, sandwiches, plates of the day that rotate. Monday is meatloaf, Tuesday is roast beef, Wednesday is chicken, Thursday is fish, Friday is a different fish. You and Carol get there at 12:03 and slide into the second booth, and you have 27 minutes. Third Tuesday, Carol says, meaning the dental appointment. Patterson dictated for 40 minutes. How was it? Fine. I caught a number error in the Chase talking points. Carol looks at you over the menu she already knows by heart. Did you say something? Yes. She tilts her head slightly, not disapproving, assessing. Was he angry? No, he took the correction. She puts the menu down. That's Patterson. Russo would have been angry. She says this flatly. Russo doesn't like corrections. I'll remember that. The waitress comes. You both order quickly. You've learned to order quickly. You have 24 minutes left. And she goes. How are you finding it? Carol asks. I'm finding it. You pause. The math bothers me. The math. Ted Briggs makes $35 a week more than me, and I'm doing more work than him. Carol wraps her hands around her water glass, looks at it. Yes, she says. That's it? Yes. What else do you want me to say? She says it without sharpness. Yes, that's true. It's true for all of us. Vera's been here 17 years and she makes $64 a week. Jim Farrow's been in accounts for 3 years and he makes 90. She pauses. The math is what it is. You're quiet for a moment. Vera said she'd explain the rules to me tonight. Carol's expression shifts slightly. Something softer. That's good, she says. She told me the rules in my 3rd week. It helps. She pauses. Not because the rules are fair, but because knowing them is better than not knowing them. You can't work around something you don't know exists. Your food arrives. A chicken sandwich, wrapped in paper still slightly warm from the press. The coffee from the counter is better than the machine on 31 and worse than the 32 percolator. You eat quickly. You have 19 minutes. Does it bother you, you ask? Still. Does it still bother you? Carol looks out the window at 47th Street where a truck is double parked and a cab is laying on its horn with the specific aggression of someone who considers this a completely appropriate response to the situation. Some days, she says, some days less. You get used to which fights are worth having. She finishes a sandwich, folds the paper neatly. Come on, she says, we've got 15 minutes. At 5:55, the secretarial pool empties. This is its own kind of spectacle. At 5:45, the typewriters start going quiet, one by one, covers being placed, desks being straightened. Women retrieve their coats from the rack and their handbags from their drawers and form a kind of tide toward the elevators. And by 5:52, the floor is mostly empty. The only sounds the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant activity of the executives' offices, whose lights are still on. The executives do not leave at 5:55. The executives leave when they leave. Their secretaries leave at 5:55 because 5:55 is the end of the working day. unless they don't. Vera is at her desk. She's on the telephone, a personal call, judging by the quality of her voice, warmer than office Vera, laughing at something, and she holds up one finger when she sees you standing there. You wait by the window. The city below is doing what it does at 6 in the evening, producing an extraordinary amount of light all at once. The buildings have their lit windows, the streets have their headlights, the signs, the Pepsi, sign across the river, the theatre marquees on the west side, are coming into their full evening authority. From 31 floors up, it looks organised, like a plan someone made and executed. It doesn't look that way from the subway. Vera sets the phone down. "Sit," she says, nodding at Carol's empty chair. "You sit." Vera folds her hands on her desk. She's taken her jacket off. She keeps it on all day. Always. That's a rule she follows for reasons she'll explain. And she's in her blouse now, and she looks slightly less armoured. Slightly more like a person. "How much has Mrs. Marsh told you?" she asks. "The handbook, the basics, the official things." "Right." Vera opens her top drawer and takes out a small green notebook. "The handbook is what they'll defend if you complain. The rest is what you actually need to know." She opens the notebook. The handwriting inside is small and precise. "Rule 1, she says, you dress for their perception of what a secretary should look. Like, not for your comfort, not for practicality, and not for your own taste. This is not the same as looking nice. You can look nice and still get it wrong. Mrs. Marsh once sent a girl home for wearing a dress in a colour she called distracting. The dress was pale yellow. You think of the white blouses in your closet. Rule 2. You are addressed by your first name by everyone above you in the hierarchy. You address everyone above you by title and last name. This asymmetry is not an accident. It establishes the relationship every morning before anything else happens. When Mr. Addison says, "Good morning, Barbara," and you say, "Good morning, Mr. Addison," you're both operating in a structure that benefits him and constrains you, and you are doing it willingly because the alternative is being considered difficult. The fluorescent lights hum. Rule 3. Your intelligence is available for use but not for display. You can be smart, you can solve problems, catch errors, organize complex information, anticipate needs before they're expressed, and they will rely on you to do all of this every day. But you may not be seen to be smarter than the men you work for. The tolerance for visible female intelligence in this office is approximately this wide. She holds her thumb and forefinger an inch apart. Stay within it. You think about the Patterson talking points. "I corrected Patterson's figures today," you say. "I heard." Vera looks at you. "Did you phrase it as a question?" "What?" "Did you say, 'Mr. Patterson, I wanted to confirm'? Were you planning to use the third quarter figures or the fourth? Or did you say, 'Mr. Patterson, the figures are from the wrong quarter'?" You think back. "I said the numbers might be from the wrong quarter and offered to get the right ones." Vera nods slowly. "That's good. That's phrased as a service, not a correction. You're not telling him he's wrong. You're offering to make sure he has what he needs." She pauses. "That's the line. Stay on the service side of it, and most of them can tolerate quite a lot of competence." She turns a page in the notebook. Rule 4. The coffee. You bring it. You know how they take it. You refill without being asked. You're not offered the first cup. You're not included in the informal coffee conversations that happen at 8:55 before the day officially starts, when the men stand around the coffee area in the little kitchenette and talk about the previous night's game or the news or whatever else they're talking about. You're not invited to stand in that circle. She pauses. If you go to get your own coffee and one of them makes a comment about it, about you getting your own coffee, something joking, something about aren't you supposed to be bringing it to them, you smile. You don't respond to the content of the joke. You smile and you go about your business. She turns another page. Rule 5. You will be told things in confidence that are not actually confidential. When an executive dictates a letter to you, he's aware, technically, that you're a person who now knows the contents of the letter. But he is not really treating you as such. The information flows through you the way information flows through a telephone wire. The wire doesn't remember the call. You're expected to behave accordingly. She looks at you steadily. This is both an insult and a form of access. You will know things before anyone else in this office knows them. What you do with that knowledge is your business. What you're required to do is forget it officially. Outside, a siren passes somewhere far below, then fades. Rule 6. Your appearance is subject to comment and correction from Mrs. Marsh, from any of the executive secretaries, and from the executives themselves. This will usually be delivered indirectly. Miss Kowalski, we want to make sure we're all presenting our best. That means something is wrong. You find out what and you fix it. The comment will not tell you what the problem is. You figure it out. She closes the notebook. Rule 7, and this one I want you to hear clearly. She looks at you. There is a ceiling above you in this room that is invisible and absolute. You can be the best secretary in this building, the best typist, the best at shorthand, the best at managing multiple executive schedules simultaneously, the best at making other people's thinking into clear documents, and the ceiling does not move. You can be better at your job than any of the men on this floor are at theirs. The ceiling does not move. She says it again. The ceiling does not move. The men who are junior account executives now will be senior account executives in 5 years. Some of them will be partners. The women who are secretaries now will be senior secretaries in 5 years, if they're very good and nothing goes wrong. The hierarchy is not a ladder. It is 2 separate structures. You are on a different structure from them, and the structures do not intersect. You look at the notebook on her desk. Why are you telling me this, you ask? Vera's quiet for a moment. Because when I started, she says, nobody told me, and I spent 2 years trying to figure out the system by living inside it without a map. And by the time I understood the map, I'd already made some mistakes I couldn't unmake. She picks up the notebook, puts it back in her drawer. You're good at this job. You figured out Patterson's numbers in 40 minutes. That kind of thing either gets used well or it gets punished, and the difference is usually whether you know what you're dealing with. She stands, retrieves her jacket from the coat rack, puts it back on with the ease of the long practice. One more thing, she says, and this one isn't a rule exactly. She buttons the jacket, smooths it. The work is real, she says. Whatever else this job is, the work is real. What we do every day matters. The business runs because we make it run. That's not nothing. Don't let them make you forget that. She picks up her purse. Good night, Miss Kowalski. Good night, Miss Hutchins. She walks to the elevator. The doors open. She steps in. The floor is very quiet. You sit at Carol's empty desk for a few minutes after Vera leaves, because the 31st floor is strange when it's empty, and you're not ready to go back into the city yet. The typewriters are all covered. 14 cream-coloured shapes in the fluorescent light. The filing cabinets are closed. The telephone bank is quiet, though the lines are still live. If someone called now, you'd hear it ring. You think about Vera's ceiling, the invisible, absolute one. $64 a week after 17 years. 90 minutes a day of getting dressed to meet their requirements. 17 years of knowing things officially and forgetting them officially and making other people's thinking into documents. 17 years. You're 22 years old. If you do, this the way Vera did it. The math ends in a place that doesn't add up to anything you planned for when you were at Catherine Gibbs, taking down dictation at 120 words per minute, thinking, this is a skill, this is something, this will take me somewhere. Take you somewhere. Where? To 38, sitting by the window with a green notebook full of rules for the next girl who shows up not knowing what she's walking into. You stand up, put your coat on, collect your gloves from your handbag. You ride the elevator down. Walter has gone for the day. The evening operator is a younger man who says nothing, just closes the doors and takes you to the lobby. The marble lobby, the brass and the terrazzo. The two security men at the desk, different men from the morning shift, who glance at you as you walk through. The revolving door, the cold. Madison Avenue at 6:15 in November. The city at full evening throttle. People streaming in both directions, cabs with their lights on. The smell of roasted chestnuts from the cart on the corner mixing with diesel and cold air. And something sweet from the bakery across the street that's been making donuts since 4 in the morning. You walk to Lexington, you go underground, you take the E train home. This time you get a seat. A woman across from you has a baby on her lap who is looking at everything with the specific attention of a person who is new to the world and finding it continuously astonishing. The baby looks at you. You make a small face. The baby smiles with its whole self, the way babies do, the way you stop being able to do around age 4 when you learn that that kind of open delight is something to be calibrated. The baby doesn't know the rules yet. The train rattles through the tunnel. You think about the green notebook. December comes with its particular Manhattan personality, which is cold, crowded, and determined to be magical about it, whether you're in the mood or not. The department stores on 5th put up their windows. Rockefeller Center puts up its tree. The city decides collectively to stop being merely a city and become for a while a version of itself from a Christmas card, with carols piped from storefronts and the specific smell of pine and cold that cuts through the general coal and exhaust atmospheric baseline and makes even the subway stairs less grim. You have been at Whitmore and Associates for 6 weeks. You now type at 79 words per minute on the Selectric, which is an improvement of 7 words per minute over your first week. By February, you will be at 83. You know the fourth quarter figures are every active client file in Mr. Addison's roster. You know which of his clients prefers a telephone call over a written letter, and which prefers the written record. You know which ones respond better to correspondence that leads with results versus correspondence that leads with relationship. You know, looking at Mr. Addison's calendar, which days he'll be in the building and which he'll be travelling, and you've started preparing his files before he asks for them because it's easier than waiting. You know Mr. Patterson takes more sugar than he admits to wanting. You know Mr. Russo's wife's name is Patricia, and she calls the office occasionally, and you are to say Mr. Russo is in a meeting regardless of whether he is, and then you tell Mr. Russo that Patricia called, and the nature of his response will tell you whether to tell him immediately or hold the message. You know which supply closet has the good paper. You know that the break room coffee is slightly better on Tuesdays and Thursdays, for reasons nobody has ever investigated, but Carol suspects it's because whoever makes the first pot those days is using a better measure. You know that Mrs. Marsh has a softer response to things framed as seeking guidance than to things framed as requests. Mrs. Marsh, I wanted to make sure I was handling this correctly, gets a different result than Mrs. Marsh. I need to talk to you about something. You know that the elevator to 32 is slightly faster than the elevator to 31 for reasons structural, and that if you take it and walk down the stairs you save 2 minutes. You know the name of everyone in the secretarial pool: Carol, Jean, Susan, Margaret, Dorothy, Helen, Pat, Evelyn, Ruth, Gail, Louise, Frances, Alice, and yourself. And you know something about each of them that matters. Carol's secret marriage, Jean's dental appointments, Susan and the seams, Margaret, who has been there 8 years and types at 91 words per minute and has a calmness that borders on the meditative, Dorothy, who is 24 and engaged and has not yet told the office and is visibly anxious about how and when to tell them. Dorothy is going to have to figure out the same thing Carol figured out, or she's going to lose the job. The knowledge of this sits in you like a small stone. December also brings the Christmas party. The Whitmore and Associates Christmas party takes place on the evening of December 14th in the conference rooms on 30 and 31, which are opened up and reconfigured for the occasion. Someone has put a tree in the corner of the 31 conference room, a real one, that smells wonderful against all the competing office smells. There are plates of food on the tables, cheese and crackers, shrimp cocktail, small sandwiches, a bowl of punch that is technically available to everyone, and is in fact mostly consumed by the account men who've been starting their consumption elsewhere. The rules for the Christmas party are different from the rules for regular days, but only slightly and only in specific ways. You may have one alcoholic drink. Having one drink is being a sport. Having 2 drinks is being a girl who drinks. Having no drinks makes you seem rigid. 1. The mathematics of female social behaviour in this context are precise. You may make conversation with the executive staff. This is encouraged. This is the point of the party, the point that is stated at least. The unstated point of the party is that the women who work in the pool can be seen by the men they work for in a context other than work, which gives everyone a chance to be human to each other for 2 hours, which maybe makes the asymmetry slightly more tolerable. Or maybe just decorates it with Christmas lights. You do not discuss salary, work assignments, or anything that sounds like a grievance. The party is not for that. You are expected to be warm, pleasant, and present, to accept compliments graciously, to move through the room rather than staying in one cluster, and to leave before 11 and not before 8, because leaving before 8 signals that you don't appreciate the gesture of the party, and leaving after 11 signals something else entirely. 8 to 11. 2.5 hours of holiday goodwill calibrated. Carol comes over at 8:30, holding her one drink in one hand and a small plate of shrimp cocktail in the other. Patterson told me I was invaluable, she says. Invaluable. What did you say? I said thank you very much. She eats a shrimp. I'm invaluable at $58 a week. Invaluable. You both stand there for a moment looking at the room. Mr. Addison is in a conversation with 2 of the junior account men, telling a story that involves a lot of gesturing. He laughs at his own punchline. Ted from Rutgers is standing with 2 of the other junior men, all of them looking extremely young and extremely confident in the way of men who've been told consistently that they belong in rooms like this. Mrs. Marsh is by the punch bowl, talking to Jean from Patterson's office, both of them looking pleasantly composed. Vera is near the window, talking to a man you don't recognise, someone from another floor who must have come up for the party. She's laughing at something he said. In the party light with her jacket off, she looks a bit younger than she does in the office. a bit more like the person she might be at home. "Do you ever think about leaving?" you ask Carol. "Every Monday morning," she says. "Then I think about the rent." "What's in this building that isn't somewhere else?" Carol considers. "Vera," she says after a moment. "Honestly, Vera is the reason I'm still here. If I'm going to do this job, I want to do it right. And she's the best I've ever seen." You think about that. What would leaving look like? "I don't know," Carol says. "I know women who've gone back to school, night school. There's a program at NYU. She pauses. There's not a lot of obvious direction. You can go from secretary to executive secretary to office manager, maybe. You can go from one company to a better company. Or you can get married officially and let them fire you and figure it out from there." She finishes her drink. "Or you wait," she says, "for whatever comes next. For whatever changes." She says it with a quality that's not quite hope and not quite resignation. Something in between. Something that looks, from a distance, like patience, but up close is the specific long-term endurance of someone who has decided to stay present in a situation that she cannot control. January is the month of the classified ads. You find them because you're looking, not for a new job exactly, and not yet, but you're aware, after 3 months, that you should know what the market looks like. Vera has told you, in the way Vera tells you things that she frames as information rather than advice. Knowing the market is not disloyalty, it's self-preservation. You pick up the New York Times on a Sunday, and you turn to the classified section, and you read. The classified ads in 1962 are organised by gender. This is printed, in the paper, at the top of the columns. Help wanted male. Help wanted female. The help wanted male column is 3 pages long. Sales representatives, engineers, account managers, junior executives, management trainees, positions with titles that suggest trajectory, starting position with advancement opportunity, junior role with partnership track, entry level, rapid promotion for qualified candidates. The help wanted female column is 1 page. It is almost entirely secretarial, clerical and receptionist positions, and the salaries, the ones that list salaries, are different. Secretary, advertising firm, 55 to 65 per week. Executive secretary, Madison Avenue, 60 to 70 per week. You look at the male column, junior account executive, advertising field, 85 to 100 per week. That's Ted's job, or a version of it, 85 to 100. You type at 79 words per minute, and you organise other people's thinking into coherent documents, and you know the fourth quarter figures for every account you touch, and you have never once, in 3 months, brought the wrong file or lost a message or made a substantive error that had consequences. $58 a week. You fold the newspaper, you drink your coffee, real coffee made in your own kitchen, in your own apartment, in your bathrobe, where nobody's checking your seams. You think about the ceiling, the invisible, absolute one. Then you open the notebook on your kitchen table and you start practicing your shorthand. 120 words per minute. By February, 130. If you're going to be excellent, you're going to be actually excellent. Not because it will break the ceiling. Vera's made that clear. But because the work is real, and the work matters, and doing it badly would be a waste of the thing you're actually good at. You practice until the coffee is cold. The thing that happens in February is not sudden. It has a before and an after, and you will organise your memory of this job into those 2 periods for the rest of your life. Before February, after February. Before February, you're learning the job. Before February, the ceiling is an abstract thing Vera described. Before February, the rules are uncomfortable but manageable, things to navigate around. After February is different. On the morning of February 19th, Carol comes in later than usual. Not late, 8:54, which is within the acceptable range, but later than her normal 8:42. Her eyes are slightly pink at the corners, which is almost invisible under the mascara and powder, and you only see it because you've been sitting next to her for 5 months and you know her face. She sits down. She takes the cover off her typewriter. She aligns a sheet of paper in the Selectric. You say nothing. You start on your own morning work. At 9:35, Mrs. Marsh comes to Carol's desk and says very quietly that Mr. Dixon would like a word. Mr. Dixon is the head of administration. He has an office on 30. His function is, effectively, to manage the humans in the building who are not executives, which means the secretarial pool, the mailroom, the cleaning staff, the reception staff. He's 57 and businesslike, and has the expression of a man who's had a great many conversations that he found awkward and has decided to find them less awkward by finding them less personal. Carol closes her notebook. She stands up smoothly, the way she does everything smoothly, and she follows Mrs. Marsh toward the elevator. She looks at you as she passes. It's not a dramatic look. It's not afraid or devastated. It's just aware. She knows where she's going. She went toward this the way you walk toward a wall you knew was there. She's gone for 20 minutes. When she comes back, she goes directly to her desk and begins typing. The typing is faster than usual. The slightly percussive rhythm she has, but pushed harder. The keys coming down with more force than they need to. She types for 8 minutes, then she stops. She sits very still for a moment, hands in her lap, looking at the paper in the typewriter. You lean over and say, very quietly, "Carol." She looks at you. Her face is completely under control. Completely. There's nothing wrong with her face. She's been practicing not having anything wrong with her face for years, and she's very good at it. "They know about Robert," she says. She doesn't say how they found out. She doesn't explain. She types the sentence, and then she's quiet and you understand. Someone told someone. The city is smaller than it looks. Someone in the building knows Robert, or knows someone who knows Robert, or was on the same block in Astoria for someone's birthday in December, and saw them together and decided at some point in January to mention it. "What did Dixon say?" you ask. "He said the company policy is that married women..." She stops, starts again. "He said the company operates on the assumption that married women's primary responsibilities are at home, that the work environment is better served by employees who aren't." She pauses. "He said a lot of things, very politely. Are they letting you go? End of the month?" She pulls the paper out of the typewriter, looks at it. He was very apologetic about it. He seemed genuinely sorry. She rolls the paper into a small cylinder and smooths it flat and rolls it again. A small physical fidget, barely there. He's not a bad man. He just... She stops. He's working inside the same structure I am. He has rules too. You look at Mrs. Marsh's desk. Mrs. Marsh is on the telephone, her back to the room. You look at the typewriters. 13 of them covered. Carol's uncovered. Yours uncovered. The Selectric ball waiting. "What will you do?" you ask. "Robert wants me to stay home," Carol says. "He's been wanting that since last October." A pause. "Maybe he's right. Maybe that's..." She unfolds the paper, smooths it. "I don't know what comes after. I haven't thought that far. She puts a fresh sheet in the typewriter. Don't make a face about it, she says, not unkindly. There's nothing to be done with a face about it. She starts typing. You turn back to your own typewriter. You feed in a sheet of paper. You align it. You set the tabs. You type Mr. Addison's morning letter with your hands perfectly steady and your face, as Vera taught you, giving nothing away. But inside you something has shifted. Some calibration. Some understanding of where you actually are and what the walls actually look like. The ceiling. The ceiling doesn't move. And today, it's not abstract. Carol's last day is March 1st. There is a small gathering in the break room at 4:30. Someone bought a cake from the bakery downstairs, chocolate with white frosting, and there's coffee. And everyone says the right things about how Carol has been such an asset, and how she'll be missed, and how she should stay in touch. Carol accepts all of this with grace, the same grace she brings to everything. Not performed, not strained, just the steady, contained poise of someone who has organised herself into a shape that fits the space available. At 5:55 she puts on her coat. She stops at your desk. The selectric on my desk needs the ribbon changed, she says. I was going to do it Monday, but... She stops, smiles slightly. Somebody else can do it Monday. She picks up her handbag. You're going to be fine, she says. You know more than you think you know. I know, you say. And then, Carol, the night school program at NYU. She looks at you. Do you have the information? The program information? Something in her face shifts, just slightly. I'll leave it on your desk, she says. She does. On her way out, she stops at your desk and puts down a folded pamphlet from the NYU catalogue. School of Commerce, Accounts and Finance, Evening Division. Then she's gone. The elevator takes her down. The floor is quiet. Time in the office develops its own texture when you've been there long enough. The days individualise themselves less. What you remember isn't the specific Tuesdays, but the quality of the months, the way Tuesday in March feels different from Tuesday in June. Not because of what happens on any given Tuesday, but because of the accumulated weight of all the Tuesdays together. You remember March as the month of the ribbon. You change the selectric ribbon on Carol's old desk. A girl named Patricia took Carol's place. 20, straight from secretarial school, nervous, over-eager, who for the first 2 weeks reminded you of what you must have looked like in November. You showed her which supply closet has the good paper. You told her about the 32 percolator. You told her about the Morgan files and Mr. Russo's wife and the half-sheet format for Patterson's talking points. You didn't tell her about the ceiling. She'll learn that herself, or Vera will tell her, and either way it's not something you want to give her before she has her sea legs. March is also when you enroll in the evening accounting class at NYU. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 7 to 9:30. You tell no one at the office, you just go. April is the month you start actually enjoying the accounting class. There's something about numbers that feels honest. They do what they do. The logic is the logic. Your instructor is a man named Dr. Alvarez who treats the 18 people in the room, 8 women, 10 men, with the same quality of attention, which is both unremarkable and, coming from where you come from, striking. May, June. The heat starts to build in the city, which you experience on the 31st floor as a kind of gathering pressure. The windows don't open, sealed glass, modern building, and the air conditioning that runs through the building keeps the temperature at a steady 68 degrees, which is comfortable and also means you never feel the actual outside air during working hours. You're in a controlled environment, temperature controlled, appearance controlled, behaviour controlled, The girdle in summer is worse than the girdle in winter. There is no other honest way to say it. By June, you're averaging 83 words per minute on the Selectric. Your shorthand is 135. You have also completed 7 weeks of accounting and have an A average, which you know about, and which nobody in the office knows about. Mr. Addison, at the end of June, tells Mrs. Marsh that Miss Kowalski is one of the most efficient secretaries he's had. Mrs. Marsh conveys this to you as, "Mr. Addison has been very complimentary." You say thank you and go back to your desk and type the afternoon correspondence. 83 words per minute. There is a July afternoon. It's the 11th, you know, because you check the desk calendar when you're thinking about it later. That becomes one of those moments you carry. It starts with a presentation. The Chase account, which has been building since November, is finally getting its major pitch. The agency has put together a full campaign: television, spots, print, radio. And the pitch is to a room of Chase executives on the 33rd floor, which is the big conference room with the view that Mr. Patterson has been angling toward all year. You've typed every version of every document in this presentation: the creative brief, 4 iterations, the budget breakdown, 6 iterations, the talking points, the ones with the corrected figures from November, and then 2 more sets of talking points since then as the campaign evolved. The presentation deck itself is 47 pages of copy, which you typed in an original and 7 carbons, which are then collated and bound, which takes 2 hours and requires the use of the machine on 30, and which you organised and distributed to the correct people the morning before. You know this presentation more thoroughly than anyone in the room where it's being given. You know which slide the numbers on slide 12 don't quite match the ones on slide 22, a small discrepancy, a rounding thing, and you flagged it to Mr. Patterson's office 3 weeks ago, and someone decided it was acceptable, and so it stands. The pitch goes well. You know it goes well, because at 4 in the afternoon Mr. Addison comes back to the floor with his jacket slung over one arm and says loudly, to the room in general, "We got it, girls." The room, 9 secretaries at their desks, plus Mrs. Marsh, says appropriate congratulatory things. "Celebrations are in order," Mr. Addison says. He's happy in the expansive way of a man whose numbers just came in. "Patterson's buying drinks at Keen's at 6. Anybody who worked on Chase should be there." You look up. Ted is already standing up, putting his jacket on. The other junior men are doing the same. You look at Mr. Addison. He's already turned away. He's heading to his office. Anybody who worked on Chase. You worked on Chase. You have worked on Chase since November. You know the Chase documents better than anyone in that pitch room except possibly the Chase executives themselves. You sit at your desk. The junior men file toward the elevator. Ted, who you've explained the Xerox machine to 4 times, Ted who makes $35 a week more than you, and whose thinking you have organised into coherent documents 3 times since January. Ted goes without looking at you. You look at Mrs. Marsh. Mrs. Marsh is looking at her desk. Via, from her desk by the window, is looking at you. Not saying anything, just looking. You look back at your typewriter. You take the cover off. You feed in a sheet of paper. You align it against the guide. You set the tabs. And here is the thing that happens in that moment that you will think about for a very long time. You don't cry. You don't say anything. You don't sit frozen with it. You type. Not because the typing is the right response. Not because the typing doesn't ache. Because it does, in a way that is distinct from the ache in your right hand. But because the work is there, and the work is real, and you have decided somewhere in the past 8 months that the work is yours even when they don't acknowledge that it is. You type the afternoon correspondence. At 5:55 you put the cover back on the typewriter. You go home. On the subway, you sit in a seat and you let yourself feel it. Not try to file it, not organize it into something manageable. Just feel the whole shape of it for the length of one train ride. The way a day of invisible contribution can be made visible as an absence, as a not invited, as an anybody who worked on Chase that somehow doesn't quite reach to your desk. You feel it for 22 minutes. Then the train pulls into Jackson Heights, and you walk up the stairs and into the evening, which is a warm July evening, the air actually somewhat breathable this far east. And the man on the corner is selling the late edition, and there are kids playing stickball in the street and a woman 2 floors up has her window open and you can hear a television. You go upstairs, you make dinner, you open the NYU accounting textbook, you study until 11. There is a Wednesday morning in August when the elevator is being serviced and you have to use the stairs. 31 flights. By the time you get to your floor, you're slightly winded, and your feet are protesting in the specific way of 2-inch heels on hard stairs. You push through the door to the floor, and you're 3 minutes later than usual, which means you've lost time for the 32 percolator, which means you'll have to use the machine on 31, which is a cascading consequence of building maintenance that Mrs. Marsh will note without actually noting. But between the 28th and 29th floor there's a window, a real window, not the sealed glass of the offices, a stairwell window, double hung, slightly dirty on the outside, and you stop for a moment, one hand on the railing, catching your breath. From 28.5 floors up, Madison Avenue looks like a diagram, a drawing, the tops of the yellow cabs visible as they move through the canyon between buildings. The people on the sidewalk reduced to purpose, small figures moving with direction, each one going somewhere, each one in the middle of their own version of today. You can see from this angle the Chrysler Building 2 blocks east, the stainless steel crown catching the August morning light the way it apparently always has, the way it will long after you and Mr. Addison and Ted and Vera and Carol have been absorbed back into whatever comes after. 61 floors of American ambition, built in 1930 by a man named William Van Allen, who was in an architectural race with a competitor, and won by concealing his building's final crown piece inside the building until the competition had already announced their final height. He hid the apex, revealed it at the last moment. One. You think about that. The city from 28.5 floors. Not beautiful exactly, or not only beautiful, complicated, dense with intention. 30 million different things happening simultaneously in the space you can see from this single dirty window. And somewhere in all of it, women like Carol are figuring out what comes after. Women like Vera are at 17 years and counting. Women in offices all over this diagram city are typing at 75 or 83 words per minute and making other people's thoughts into documents and getting coffee without being offered the first cup. And some of them, some Tuesday and Thursday evenings, are at NYU in an accounting class. You look at the Chrysler Building for one more moment. Then you take your hand off the railing and you go up the stairs. A year. You've been at Whitmore and Associates for a year and 3 weeks. In that time, you have typed, by your rough calculation, somewhere between 400 and 500 documents for Mr. Addison alone. The correct number is impossible to know because you didn't start keeping track until June. but extrapolating backward from June's total gives you the 4 to 500 range. You have taken dictation in Greg's shorthand from 3 different executives, approximately 800 sessions. You have answered Mr. Addison's telephone approximately 2,300 times. You're estimating this from the message slips you generate per day, which average 12 times 240 working days. But message slips don't account for calls that don't require a message, so the real number is probably higher. You have fetched coffee from 2 different floors approximately 500 times. You've changed the selectric ribbon 9 times on your machine and twice on other machines. You've corrected, in the framing of a service rather than a correction, 4 significant errors in executive documents. 3 were caught before they went out. 1. The Patterson talking points from November was the first, and that one you're most proud of in a way you can't quite explain, because it was the first time you understood the formula, the service rather than the correction, and you got it right the first time, instinctively. You've enrolled in and completed 1 semester of accounting at NYU Evening School. You've enrolled in the 2nd semester. You've watched Patricia, the girl who replaced Carol, make every mistake you made in your first month, and you have quietly helped her not make the ones that could get her in trouble, the way Vera helped you. You've not been invited to a single meeting as anything other than a note-taker. You have not been offered a promotion. The category of promotion available to you is Executive Secretary. The salary difference between your current role and Executive Secretary is $9 a week. You think about this on a Tuesday morning in September, sitting at your desk 10 minutes before the floor opens, the coffee from 32 warming your hands, the typewriter cover still on, the floor quiet in the way it's only quiet in those few minutes before it starts. Vera comes in at 8:40. She sees you sitting there. She hangs her coat. She sits at her desk. She gets her own coffee. She comes back. Annual review is next week, she says, sitting on the edge of Carol's desk. Patricia is there now, but the desk is still sometimes Carol's in your head. I know. What are you going to ask for? $7 a week. You've calculated this. It's the midpoint between what you think is possible and what you think you deserve. What you actually deserve is at least 15, and probably more. But asking for what you actually deserve is not a strategy that ends well in a context like this, and you've learned that from watching 2 women ask for what they actually deserved and come away with none of it, and less goodwill besides. 7 is good, Vera says. Ask for 7, be prepared to accept 5, don't go below 4. Will I get it? Vera tilts her head. Addison likes your work. Mrs. Marsh will have given a positive review. Dixon makes the final call. She pauses. 5 is likely, 7 is possible, 4 is the floor. You look at her. I'm taking accounting classes, you say. A pause. NYU, you say. Evening division. I've been going since March. Vera looks at you with the expression she has for things that she already suspected. I know, she says. You know? I've been doing this for 17 years. She straightens slightly. You study in the break room on Tuesday and Thursday lunches. You carry a textbook in your handbag. Your math on client memos started looking different around April. Less intuitive, more structured. More like someone who was thinking in accounting categories. You stare at her. Why didn't you say anything? Because it's your business, she says, not mine. She pauses. What are you planning to do with it? I don't know yet, you say, which is true, and not entirely true. The not entirely true part is that you have a slowly forming idea that you haven't put into words because putting it into words makes it real. and real things can be taken away from you. Good, Vera says. That's the right answer for right now. She stands up. Get your work out. 5 more minutes. She goes back to her desk. You take the cover off your typewriter. The Selectric ball gleams in the fluorescent light, waiting. The annual review is conducted by Mr. Dixon on the 30th floor. You sit across from him in a chair that is slightly lower than his, which might be an accident of furniture selection and might not. His desk is clear except for a manila folder, which is your file. He is pleasant. He has the pleasant manner of a man who has no personal animosity toward you, and is also operating firmly within a system that does not require him to have animosity toward anyone in order to produce results that are inequitable. He tells you that your performance has been excellent, that Mr. Addison is very satisfied, that Mrs. Marsh has given a strong positive review. He tells you that effective the 1st of November, your salary will be $63 a week. You thank him. $5 a week, a year's performance, 450 documented hours of accuracy, 17 document corrections framed as services, 3 years of secretarial school, 1 year of evening accounting classes, $5. You walk back to the elevator. You press 31. The elevator hums. You look at the brass doors, your reflection in the brass, your face, your hair, your navy jacket with the small white buttons that you bought in March. $5. You do the math, the way you always do the math now that the accounting class has made the math more automatic. $5 a week times 52 weeks is $260 a year. $260 is a lot of things. It's 4 months of rent, it's a winter, coat and new shoes and 3 months of NYU classes and a small emergency fund. And Ted Briggs, who came from Rutgers the same month you came from Catherine Gibbs, and whose thinking you have organized into coherent memos 4 times since January, makes $35 a week more than you at 63, and will receive, if his pattern holds, a $7 a week raise in his own review, which will take him to approximately 135. You know this because you've seen his memo, because you typed his memo, because the memos go through the secretarial pool and you typed it and you don't remember officially. 135, 63. The elevator doors open. 31. You step out. The floor is its usual noon-hour quiet, most of the pool at lunch. You go to your desk. You sit down. You take the cover off your typewriter, and you do the thing you've been doing every day for a year. You begin. On the morning of November 7th, 1 year and 3 weeks. After your first day at Whitmore & Associates, you do something different. It's 8:52. You're at your desk. The typewriter is uncovered, the paper aligned, the tabs set. You open your bottom drawer. You take out the NYU pamphlet, Carol's pamphlet, the one she left on your desk in March, and you look at it for a moment. It's worn at the folds now. The edges are soft. You put it back in the drawer. You take out a piece of paper instead. Not office paper. Your own, brought from home. Cream-coloured, not Whitmore's institutional beige. You roll it into the typewriter. You type, "Dear Mr. Patterson, I am writing to propose a meeting at your convenience to discuss the possibility of a more expanded role within the agency, specifically in account coordination. I believe my familiarity with active client accounts, combined with my 3 years of secretarial training and ongoing coursework in accounting and business administration at New York University, would be an asset in such a capacity. I recognize that this is an unusual request, and I'm happy to discuss it in whatever format you find most convenient. Sincerely, Barbara Ann Kowalski." You look at what you've typed. You sit with it for a moment, feeling the specific weight of the thing, the nerve of it, the absurdity of it, the absolute correctness of it. You know what will probably happen. You know Patterson may say no without much consideration. You know that even if he says yes to a meeting is not a promotion, and a promotion, a real one, across the invisible floor between the secretary structure and the executive structure, is the kind of thing that doesn't really happen. You know all of this. You also know that you type at 83 words per minute and take shorthand at 135, and have been taking accounting classes since March, and have maintained an A average, and can organise other people's thinking into documents so clearly that the documents get signed without being fully read, which is either a compliment or the explanation for why they don't notice you, or possibly both. You pull the letter out of the typewriter, you fold it in thirds, you seal it in a cream envelope, your own, brought from home, and you write Mr. Patterson's name on the front. You put it in your handbag. You don't know if you'll send it today or this week or this year. You don't know exactly what you're doing, but you've typed it. It exists. It's a thing in the world now, this letter, this version of you that is asking for something. Vera comes in at 8:48. She hangs her coat. She gets her coffee. She sits at her desk. She looks at you. You look at her. Her expression doesn't change, but something in it is aware of something, the way she's always aware of things. You go back to your typewriter. You feed in a sheet of paper, the Whitmore beige. You align it. You set the tabs. Mr. Addison's first letter of the day is already in your inbox. You begin. 55. The floor empties. You stay at your desk for a few minutes, the way you did after Vera explained the rules in your first month. The typewriter's covered, the filing cabinet's closed, the telephone line's quiet. But it feels different from that night. That night you were sitting with the shape of what you'd just learned. The rules, the ceiling, the green notebook, sitting with how large it all was. Tonight is different. The letter is still in your handbag. You haven't decided about it yet, but it's there. You look out the window. You've moved desks since January. The woman who sat close to the windows asked for a transfer to the 32nd floor, and Mrs. Marsh gave you a spot. Not the window, not Vera's spot, but closer. You can see the sky from here if you crane slightly. The November sky over Manhattan at 6 in the evening is the dark blue that comes right before it turns full dark, the last of the daylight still somewhere in it but going fast. The city is lit up, buildings going on as the sky goes off. You think about the women you know, Carol in Astoria, who may be figuring out what comes after. Dorothy, who told the office in June that she was engaged and was let go in September, and who you heard from Susan started at a company in Midtown that has different policies. Patricia at Carol's old desk, still nervous, but steadier now, learning the supply closets. Jean with her Tuesday dental appointments. Susan checking her seams in the bathroom mirror at 10, at noon, at 3. And Vera, 17 years at the window desk. Vera, who has a green notebook and enough self-awareness to know exactly what's in it, and who gives that knowledge to younger women not because it'll change anything, but because a map is better than no map, even if the territory is unreasonable. You stand up. You put your coat on. Gloves, handbag with the letter inside. You walk past Vera's desk. There's a small framed photograph there that you've never quite looked at directly. You knew it was there, but you've been respecting it as private. You look at it now, in the quiet of the empty floor. A younger Vera, maybe 25, standing outside somewhere, a building, trees in the background. She's laughing. Really laughing. Not the managed warmth of Office Vera. Her head's tipped back slightly and her mouth is open, and she's wearing a dress that doesn't look like a business suit and her hair is loose. She looks like the person she is at home. You look at the photograph for a moment. Then you go to the elevator. 31, you tell the operator. You're already on 31. Lobby, you mean? He closes the doors without comment. Walter. It's Walter tonight. He changed his shift recently. Late one, he says. Little bit. Cold out. Getting colder. He takes you down. The lobby is quieter at this hour. The terrazzo floor, the brass elevator doors, the security men at their desk, different from the morning shift. You walk through the revolving door. The cold hits you. November cold, genuine now, the kind that means it. Your breath makes a small cloud and dissolves. Madison Avenue at 6:15. The crowd still thick, the evening rush not yet fully spent. People coming out of buildings with their briefcases and their hats and their collars turned up. You walk to Lexington, you go underground. The E-train at 6:20 is different from the E-train at 7:40. Different population, different energy. The morning train is going in, purposeful, armed with newspapers and the armour of the day ahead. The evening train is going home, which means it's more various, more individual. The purposefulness has been spent and what's left is just people trying to get somewhere comfortable. A woman across from you is reading a paperback. The cover is bright. You can see it from here, a book called The Feminine Mystique, which came out this year and which you bought in March and read in 4 days and have been thinking about ever since in the specific way you think about something that names a thing you already knew was there but didn't have a word for. The woman reading it looks up, catches you looking. You nod at the book. She holds it up slightly in acknowledgement. Then she goes back to reading. The train rocks through the tunnel. The lights flicker once, the way they do between stations, and for half a second the car is dark and then it's fluorescent again. You look at your handbag. The letter is still in it. Your apartment at 6:50 in the evening smells like the building. A mix of cooking from various floors, Mrs. Ferrara's sauce, something baking on two. The particular smell of old New York apartment building that is part plaster and part wood, and part the accumulated decades of previous tenants who left their trace in ways the paint covers but doesn't quite erase. You take your coat off, your shoes, your feet, register the freedom from the 2-inch heels with a gratitude that's almost audible. You stand in the kitchen in your stockings and your work skirt and your blouse and you look at the counter. You peel the girdle off. You have to take it off before you can do anything else. Not because it's ceremonially important, but because after 10 hours you simply cannot concentrate on anything else while it's still on. You fold it. You put it on the bathroom shelf. You breathe. A real breath. The kind where your whole midsection participates. You put water on for tea and you sit at the kitchen table and you take the letter out of your handbag and you lay it on the table. Dear Mr. Patterson, you look at it. The thing about writing the letter is that it changed something, even if you never send it. You said the thing. You typed it in the formal register, the business letter register, and you said, here is what I can do, here is what I want, here is why you should consider it. The answer might be no. The answer is probably no. The landscape of probably no stretches out with some clarity. But the letter exists. You exist in it, in a way that's different from existing as an appendage to Mr. Addison's correspondence. The kettle makes its sound. You make the tea. You open the accounting textbook. You study until 9:30. Then you close the book and sit at the kitchen table and let the day settle into its actual shape. Not the managed shape of the workday, but the real one, the whole of it. From the 6:15 alarm to right now, this moment in the kitchen. Tea cooling, textbook closed, letter on the table, the baby Ben on the nightstand through the wall already ticking toward tomorrow. It was a day. It was a difficult day in some of the ways that days in this life are difficult. Not dramatic, not acute. Just the sustained pressure of existing in a space that wasn't quite designed for you to take up the full amount of room you actually take up. The ceiling that doesn't move, but also 83 words per minute, 135 in shorthand, an A average at NYU, going on 2 semesters, the Patterson talking points with the right numbers, the Addison letters that are better than Addison's dictation, because you translated the loops into lines, the work, real, yours, both things, both of them true at once. You're learning to hold them both. The baby Ben says 9:52. You wash your face, the foundation and powder and mascara that organised you into professional legibility, washed away now, your actual face underneath, which is the one you've been carrying around all day inside the other one. You put on your pyjamas, the flannel ones. November. The apartment is cold at night despite the clanking aspiration of the radiator. You get into bed. The mattress is yours, not shared. Not a straw mattress. A real mattress from the store on Junction Boulevard that you bought in September with a month's salary, and which you consider one of the better decisions you've made. You lie in the dark. Through the wall, Mrs. Ferrara's television, low. Outside, the block. Going about its evening business. A car. Someone's laugh from the street carried up. The sound that big buildings make at night when the activity in them settles. A structural exhale almost. The building cooling slightly and adjusting. You close your eyes. And here, in the dark of your apartment on a November night, you let yourself go through it all one more time, but without the management of it. Without the filing. Carol. The pink corners of her eyes in the morning and the controlled typing after. Percussive and faster than necessary. The way she folded the paper into a cylinder and smoothed it. Don't make a face about it. There's nothing to be done with a face about it. The Christmas party, one drink, the warm calculus of it, the classified ads, help wanted male, help wanted female, the mathematics of the page, July 11th, anybody who worked on Chase, Ted putting his jacket on, the Patterson letter in your handbag, Vera's photograph, the young woman laughing, her head tipped back, her hair loose, outside somewhere in the light, the ceiling that doesn't move, the work that's real, both things you think, both of them. Your breathing slows. The city outside your window is doing what cities do at 10 at night. Not stopping, never stopping, but shifting its register from daytime to nighttime, the traffic thinning slightly, the restaurant and bar sounds coming up, someone somewhere in the building settling down for the evening. You're Barbara Ann Kowalski. You're 23 years old. You grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens, 3 stops on the E train from where you are right now. Your mother is in that apartment with your father who works for the transit authority, and they sent you to secretarial school with the specific hope that would open something, give you a door. They weren't wrong. The door is complicated. The room behind it is complicated. The rules of the room are many, and most of them aren't written down, and the ones that matter most are the ones they won't put in writing, because putting them in writing would make them visible, and visible things can be argued with. You've learned the rules. You carry them now the way you carry the steno pad. Not because you love them, not because they're fair, but because knowing them is better than not knowing them. Because a map is better than no map. And underneath the rules, under the management and the filing and the sealing that doesn't move, you're 83 words per minute. You're 135 in shorthand. You're working on your second semester of accounting at NYU, and your grade hasn't dropped below an A. You have a letter in your handbag addressed to Mr. Patterson. You might send it, you might not, but you wrote it. It's there. Your eyes are heavy now. The day is finally letting go, the way it only does in the last 10 minutes before you sleep, when the thinking gets loose and the edges of things go soft. You think about the stairwell window, 28.5 floors up, the Chrysler building catching the morning light, the diagram of the city below, all those small figures going somewhere. You think about Vera at 17 years, by the window with her green notebook. You think about Carol reading the NYU pamphlet in Astoria, or maybe not reading it yet, or maybe having thought about it and done something else, or maybe doing exactly what you hope she's doing, which is figuring out what comes next. You think about the women in the help wanted columns, 58 to 65, what their mornings look like, whether they also take the second from the end stall in the bathroom, whether they also have a system for getting the seams straight, whether they're also keeping something in their handbags. The sounds outside are quieter now, or maybe you're just listening less. The boundary between waking and sleeping starts to blur, the way it does when you're truly tired, when the body has decided that consciousness is no longer the priority, when the thinking slows and the edges soften, and what was sharp becomes general, and then becomes nothing particular at all. Somewhere in this city, 1 million people are managing their way towards sleep. The women who took dictation today from men who will not remember their names by next year. The women who changed ribbons and fetched coffee and organised loops into lines and got $5 a week more at their annual reviews. The women who are carrying letters in their handbags. The women who are carrying green notebooks. The women who are reading pamphlets from evening school catalogues, or who are not reading them yet, or who decided on something different, some other direction through the complicated room behind the complicated door. All of them in apartments across this city, in their own beds, in their own dark. Each one with the specific weight of her particular day. And also, this matters, too, each one with whatever she kept that was hers, the thing they couldn't take, the work inside the work, the 83 words per minute, the letter in the handbag, the A average no one at the office knows about, the human beings who, whatever shape the room forced on them, stayed human inside it. That's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot. You're warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. Tomorrow the alarm will go off at 6:15. You'll get up in the cold apartment and you'll stand at the bathroom mirror and you'll construct the professional version of yourself. The controlled hair, the appropriate makeup, the girdle that requires an exhale to put on, the nylons with the seams straight. You'll take the E-train to Lexington in the company of other people on their way to the same general project. You'll go to the 31st floor. You'll type at 83 words per minute. You'll take dictation at 135. You'll make coffee you won't be offered. First. You'll organise loops into lines. You'll notice things officially and forget them officially and carry the invisible work of the office on your hands. The specific tenderness in your right wrist, the ache in your feet at 4, the posture that the mid-spine chair maintains. And in your bottom drawer there will be a cream envelope, and in the evening there will be the E-train home. and at the kitchen table there will be an accounting textbook, open, and some days the ceiling will feel like a ceiling and some days it will feel like a provocation, and either way you will carry both things, the constraint and the capacity, and figure out what to do with what you have. Tomorrow, but tonight, let sleep come. Let it come the way it came for every woman who did this work in those years, in those offices, in those girdles, and those seams, and those 30-minute lunches, and those $5 a week raises. Let the day go. Let the noise of the city go down to its night-time. Register the distant and the low. Let your hands rest, your right hand especially, the tendons along the outside of your wrist, the muscle from thumb to first finger. Let them be still. The work will be there in the morning. The typewriter will be uncovered again at 8:52. The paper will be aligned against the guide. But right now, there's just this, the dark, the quiet, the city going on at its nighttime pace without you for these few hours. Your eyes are closing. Your breathing is slow and steady now. The full breath you can only take when the girdle's off, when the day's formal shape has been set aside, when it's just you in your own apartment, in your own bed, which is yours, which nobody borrowed you from, which is exactly the right size for the person you actually are. The last sound you hear is a bus on the street below, its engine growling as it pulls away from the stop, heading somewhere. Always heading somewhere, and then nothing, just rest, just the long, slow slide into dreams. Good night.